What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. My name is Brennan Tassif. I'll be your host. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch-store. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll put the shorts up there, the full video, the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening. I love it. I hope you love it. Subscribe on Patreon, too. We do bonus episodes. I do Tales from the Restaurant, where I talk about celebrities I've waited on and whether they're assholes or not, which is super fun. Also, we do a pre-show banter for my other show, Cheers from the Press Box with Joe Dorville. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on over there, too. Make sure you just subscribe everywhere, just all over the place. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not leaving the mean comments, thank you for that. Maybe leave a couple nice ones.
Grab me your beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. There's going to be a graphic there. It's a whole thing that we do. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do. Hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do. Hang out with somebody and reminisce about the fun old days. Most weeks I'll be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from Brooklyn, New York, Bobby Lockwood. What's up, dude?
How you doing, man?
Good. Before we get too far into anything, plug everything up front. Social media, where people can find you, the whole deal.
Burrito Lockwood on Instagram. Bobby Lockwood on Facebook. I don't really do too much social media, you know.
You don't. I noticed that. You don't really post a whole lot.
It's just a headache.
Yeah.
It's just, listen, more power to you. I'm not like one of those guys like, like anyone that's doing it, it's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah.
And it's like to keep up the momentum and like stay on top of it. And I'm just like already so scatterbrained that it's just like, simplicity is key.
Yeah, it is one thing I noticed. Like even today, like I was getting everything set up for you to come over so we could record. Yeah. And then I was like, oh shit, I forgot to do my daily post while I was at the mic. So I stop everything to sit down and like an asshole on my phone, like, you know, put in the hashtags and all that. And I was like, what are we doing? Like, what's happening? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Burrito Lockwood. Yeah, that's where you're at. We met, funny enough, outside on McDougal Street.
Yeah.
You were out there, and it was a weird kind of thing how we ended up becoming friends. We're now a part of what would you call it, a group? Where we fuck people up on Marvels, Rivals.
Oh, yeah.
We're now friends. We're now teammates. I'm the Hulk, you're Storm. Yeah. Used to be Mantis, but now you switched over to Storm.
You know, I played the healer.
Big gamer is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, we're gonna talk. I'm nerd talk. You know, I didn't realize I was just about to go into a spiel about things that only people that play this game. Like I was ready to fucking go off for like 10 minutes straight about.
We were just talking about it before the mics went on, and we were standing up talking. I was like, we got to start, man. We were like, all right.
Yeah, no, we don't have to talk about the video. I was about to get deep in it, but, you know.
But we met because I would run into you, so I would do my lap, which for the listeners, I think, no. But every night when I get off work, I either go to the stand or I'll do a lap around McDougal Street just to kind of see what's going on, just, you know, say hey to people, that whole thing. And then I started running into you, so we'd always say what's up, because comics always kind of know what's going on. And then it went from just saying hey and like fist bumping to like talking to like we ended up going to Jared Waters' birthday party together. And then we became fast friends. And then you were like, oh, you play video games? And I was like, goddamn right I do. And you're like, you got to get on this Marvels. And now we like play probably once a week. Sometimes it's funny because we'll log on and you're like, I'm tired. I don't even know why I did this. And I'll be like, yeah, let's just do one. And then sometimes we'll go for a few hours just knocking people out. But then I was like, we got to get you on the podcast. So you came. It's a long trek from Brooklyn, so I appreciate you making the trek.
You know, it's not that bad.
It's pretty bad.
It's a little bad.
I actually have to do a show tonight in Brooklyn. Okay. And when I got booked on it, the guy who booked me was like, have you heard of this club? And I was like, yeah. He's like, you ever been there? And I was like, no, but I couldn't remember why I had never been there. Mm-hmm. And then I looked it up. I go, oh yeah, that's why. Because it's fucking 3 trains, an hour and 20 minutes into Brooklyn. I was like, oh yeah, now I remember.
It was a good hour 15, hour 20.
I know. Yeah. So you grew up in New York, yeah? You lived here for a while, right?
Rockland County. I was born in Queens.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so I want to go because before we get into any stories or anything like that, I always like my listeners to like get to know my first time guests. So how did you even find stand-up? Because you've been doing stand-up for a while. How did you even find comedy?
Honestly, it was kind of, no, I don't want to say an accident.
Okay.
So I wanted to like write for television, which I mean I still wouldn't mind doing, but it's just like it was just one of those things that's like, you know, if an idea pops in your head, it's like I want to be this, I want to be that. When I was younger, I wanted to be a skateboarder or an astronaut. Like it's one of those things that for 5 seconds you're like I could do that. So you just like lean fully into it. So I bought a book, I think called like The Complete Idiot's Guide to Writing Comedy.
Okay. How old were you when this happened?
21, 22. And I read the book. It was by this guy, Jim Mendrinos.
Shout out, Jim.
Yeah, one of the things that it said was like, you know, you got, like, you know, a lot of sitcoms, it's like jokes. You know what I'm saying? Like 2.5 Men, How I Met Your Mother, Friends. It's just a bunch of jokes squeezed in there. So they were like, if you want to know if your jokes are funny, you got to try them on stage. Best way to do that is an open mic or something like that. So I wrote a bunch of jokes that I wanted to try on an open mic.
Oh, so wow, that really is kind of by happenstance. So in the book, it was like, if you want to know if the jokes are working, you have to go out and try them.
So I wrote the jokes down just to have jokes, just for one day, hypothetically doing an open mic.
Yeah.
And then my first time ever doing an open mic was on St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
So
this was in New York?
In New York, yeah.
Okay.
It was in Brooklyn at a place called Much More's, which I don't know if they're still open. It was like a wine bar. And it was like their first time doing an open mic too, so it was kind of crazy.
On St. Patrick's Day.
On St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, that's nuts.
So I was going to meet friends in Manhattan. I had to go through Brooklyn to get where I was trying to get from where I was staying at the time. And on the train ride, I got a call saying that one of my friends was like projectile vomiting. And my friends had come from like upstate, so they had to pull a Yui, and they just took that friend home. They got him out of the city. They were like, we can't stay out here if this person's like...
So they made it all the way to the city from
They made
upstate.
it all the way to the city, but I guess they pre-gamed too hard or something like that, and that friend started throwing up, and it's like, they don't live out here, so it's not like they could have put that person in an Uber.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, we just can't hang out anymore because this friend is...
That's fucking
terrible. That friend, it was a chick, and she like was just like, and you know what I'm saying? It's like, whatever, so much time has passed, nobody cares, but in the moment, like...
Dude, I'd be pissed if I rode like 4 hours.
Mega party foul. It was only like 2 hours for him, but it was still a mega party foul. And
it's like in Florida driving from Jacksonville to Orlando just to like turn around and drive back to Jacksonville.
So, and I was pissed too because like I had like planned my whole day around these guys coming to the city.
Yeah, meeting up with your friends. Yeah.
So I got the message while I was like on this above ground train on Brooklyn. I got out of the train immediately because I'm like, why the fuck am I going to the city?
I'm not gonna.
You know what I'm saying? So I went and I sat in a McDonald's, and I'm like, I was already buzzed. I probably chugged like a Four Loko before I was like trying to like get ready for the vibe. You know what I'm saying? So I was a little buzzed, and I got off at this McDonald's, and I just start Googling like fun activities near me or like whatever. And
you love Four Loko.
Oh man, it was. We
had a whole conversation at Dave and Buster's about Four Loko.
Yeah. No, Four Loko was my life.
I normally would just go to a bodega, hit some Four Loko, and I was like, who says Four Loko? But out of everything, you were like Four Loko, man.
It's best bang for your buck, man. Hands down. Still to this day, for like anywhere. I don't know how much with inflation. It's probably what, 5 something now.
Probably
but like,
not.
It was
even.
like 2 something, 3 something dollars back then, and it was like, what is it like? The equivalent's like 4, 5, 6 beers in one can. So I was just like, you know.
That's the name of the episode. Best bang for your buck.
And where the fuck was I? Oh yeah, so
McDonald's, your little buzz.
Yeah. So there were like,
mics.
I was just looking through a list of things that were like comedy, and I was like, oh shit, comedy shows, and it was like open mic. I don't know how like the Google search went, but I thought there was an open mic like within walking distance from me. So I'm like, I had these jokes. I'm like, let me go and like possibly do this mic, and I'd never used my real name when I first started doing open mics. I would go by Bobby Dankwood.
Okay.
Which is like a stupid thing, but it ended up like actually I turned that into my stage name stupidly. It's not that anymore.
I was gonna say that's not what I know you.
Yeah, no. If you like, for years I had changed my Instagram name and thing. I was like, oh, I got this, you know. But it used to be like my alias. Where does the name come from? It was the name of my meme page.
Oh, okay.
Like yeah. So I like didn't know if I was gonna go up. If they called my name and I didn't feel it, I didn't actually put my real name. Not that anyone there would have known my real name, but I felt less
you have like that barrier.
Yeah, I had that. I had that.
yeah.
Like, I can like, oh, who's Bobby? And everyone's looking around for the guy, and I'm not. You know, what I'm
like,
saying
I'm not-
I could be there or not.
I'm Bobby.
you know?
I'm not that Bobby.
And
though.
I just went there. It was a wine bar. I was like on my third glass of wine, a Four Loko deep, and I'm like, fuck it. These guys suck.
Yeah.
No offense. Like,
No, but
open
it's true,
micers.
yeah.
You know, like it's like you go to an open mic. I always tell people on the first time, like, if you're ever scared, sit through an open mic. At one point, you'll go, I could do better than that
Yeah,
guy, or I could do
100%.
At one point, you'll go, fuck it. If that person has the
Yeah.
balls to do it, and I'm not, not judging anyone, but
No,
that's
but
just
you-
like,
yeah,
it's
100%.
supposed to be rough. You're
Yeah.
supposed to suck, So my mic, my first open mic, I don't remember what material I did.
Do you remember how it went?
Yeah, it went okay. It went
Okay.
okay. It went okay. And a lot of people were just like, so like, oh, that was your first time, like just like hyping me up. And I was just like, I love
Dank
the
was
energy.
here, baby.
I love the energy of like people just being like, yeah, you did, what I'm saying? Like, oh man, that was good.
Yeah.
You got to do it again. And like, I instantly made friends and like met up with the same people next week. And like, I went to that mic for like 2, 3, 4 weeks and started going to other mics. But it was a complete fluke. Like, it was a complete
That
accident.
is crazy because you
Yeah.
weren't even supposed to be there.
I went to like, I would take classes for music and stuff like that. I wanted to be a DJ.
Yeah.
And just that life like was just so intense and competitive that I eventually just like bowed out. Like, I was like, I would take these classes with people and they would be like, if you want to make it in the music industry, you got to bleed this shit. You got to be out until 3 a.m. every day. And I'm just like, you guys are like twice my age and so bitter and angry. And like, what I'm saying? Like, I kind of got scared out of like that passion. And then I kind of was just in a hole. So I was like, let me try this comedy thing out. And I just stuck with it. And
Yeah, because you've been at it for a while. It's so cool to see, like when we're hanging out on McDougal, everyone. It doesn't matter if it's like someone who's like, barking or like just moved to the city, all the way up to like the big comics from the cellar. Everybody knows you. You're just like dapping up everybody. You're like the mayor of fucking McDougal Street.
I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, but it's weird you mentioned the jaded thing because I had this happen when I went to an open mic. God, it must have been a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And there's this guy sitting at the bar. It's a place that we know, the Pear. For those of you listening, you might know it. And we're all just getting ready for the open mic. This guy's sitting at the bar, older guy, like older, and I'm old. He's older than me. He must be in his like mid 40s, just getting drunk at the bar in the daytime, like real, like hard. Like I love it as someone who used to do that on a lot of occasions.
Oh, yeah.
But it was weird because he was making fun of us. Like we're all, all the comics kind of hang out together before we go to the back. And so we're all like writing and like talking about jokes and like, oh, I just bombed here. I actually did pretty good here. And we're just having a normal comics conversation. And this guy leans over. He's like, you guys are comedians? Or you think you're comedians? And we were like, yeah, man. He was like, I did comedy. I did comedy for 10 years. And now I come to the Pear just to drink. I don't do open mics anymore. But to your point about the DJ stuff, we're like, yeah, dude, like, okay, cool. Like, what the fuck are you telling us for?
You'll see a lot of that. Like any industry that you're going to, like there's those people that just like never made it.
And then they quit and then they hold it against you and you're like, the fuck?
But you can tell if you develop that attitude and you're projecting that attitude on, that's like you can almost understand why that person never got where they were trying to go.
100%. Because it's like, oh, it's not everyone else. It's you. You're the asshole.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, so when did you did that as your first open mic and then just kind of started hitting open mics. Were you always a fan of like, because you said you got into it for the writing aspect of it. Like because you bought the book, you read the book, which takes some sort of like commitment to the thing. Was this something like when you were a kid, like 5 or 6 or 7 watching TV, or when you were a teenager in high school? Like when did you get that itch to be like, I want to do this writing thing?
I ever cared about stand-up comedy till about my late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
Only 2 comics I even knew of and like would even like use like, well, one there was Chappelle because Chappelle's show. Love the Chappelle show, obviously. Like
obviously.
And then there was Dane Cook and Kevin Hart were the only guys that I'd ever sat down and actually watched their specials as a kid. And my dad actually took me to my first comedy show, and he took me to see Sean and Marlon Wayans.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Killers.
Yeah, of course. And I don't know if you know Will Sylvans.
Yeah, I love Will.
He opened for them, absolutely crushed it. And that was like, I still at that point didn't like see myself getting up there, but my father passed away when I was 21.
Sorry to hear that.
And when he was like, going through what he was going through, he was just nonstop watching stand-up comedy. So a lot of my last memories were with him watching Pryor.
Oh my
watching
God.
Eddie Murphy.
So this has like a much deeper connection
I
for
mean,
you than...
you know, but he like put me on to see like in his last days, like we weren't, you know what I'm saying, like sometimes we wouldn't even talk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I would just sit in the room with him and just like sit on the floor or sit, you know what I'm saying?
And just watch stand-up.
And just watch stand-up for hours.
Wow.
He would be sleeping and I would just be like watching Carlin or like Red Fox or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Damn. So this is like something that's like, I mean, I don't want to be gay about it, but this is something that's like close to you.
I mean, it just, I found the passion kind of like called me. And
Yeah.
it's not, you know what I'm saying? So I really fell in love with it, but I still never saw myself doing it until it was like that.
You were 3 wines and a 4 local
exactly. That mixed with the opportunity, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
So when you were going up after that first open mic and then you kept going up, were you doing that same kind of routine, like having a couple drinks before you went up, or did you start to take it more seriously, or like take us through that?
So I think I did my first open mic when I was 22.
Okay.
And then I was like trying to get a job for the railroad and like I was like going through that and like I actually turned it down. I'm not going to say for comedy, but just like in general because like I just wanted to do, you know what I'm saying? Like different things. And so I took in like half a year off and then got back to it when I was 23. But yeah, I was drunk honestly until like last month. No. Yeah.
Oh man, that's oh fuck.
So,
yeah, because when I first started, I mean, the listeners are probably sick of hearing about this, but when I first started, I was 22, and I had just stopped playing football. Like I got too many concussions, I couldn't play football anymore. And Dane Cook was one of the reasons why. Because to your point, I would watch so much comedy, but I wouldn't see myself doing it. And then I've said this a million times. I watch Harmful of Swallow, that set that Dane does on the Comedy Central Presents, where he rips his shirt off and he pours the water, and I go, oh, I want to do that. So then fast forward, I'm 22. I can't play football anymore because of all my concussions. And I was like, let me try this stand-up thing. And I was hammered. Yeah. And every time after that, hammered for a long time. Like I was the kind of guy where I would be doing like a hacky Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. And then they would give me the light, and I'd be like, fuck you, you come get me off the stage. Like, wouldn't get off the stage. Yeah. It was like crowd working other comics. Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
So for you, because you're definitely more of a jolly kind of guy versus the way I drink. So for you, was it like just you were just having a good time?
I went through so many phases because like when you're
Let's
trying
talk
to,
about it.
When you're trying to wrap your head around what comedy is, there's so many different styles that you have to absorb. So I went from 0 to 100. I went from like dabbling in comedy to like being a full-blown student of the craft.
Yeah.
Like, so I was just reading every book I could. I took like 5 or 6 courses.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I took the course at Gotham, the course at Broadway, the course at the Comedy Cellar.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm saying I was taking one-on-one lessons with Laughing Buddha, and you know what I'm saying.
So you were like head first.
Yeah. When I decided that I wanted to do it, I really, really was like, I want to know as much as I can so that way I can decide who I want to be, as far as just kind of like stumbling in the dark and letting the world tell me who I should be.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know the rules so I could break the rules.
That's actually a fantastic way to do it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that, I mean, we see it all the time. These kids come in 21, 22, fresh out of college. They were the funny person in their friend group, so they're like, I'm going to move to New York and do stand-up.
Yeah. If I had a fucking dollar for every time someone's like, yeah, people have told me I should do stand-up, it's like, I could quit right now. You know? I could just retire. It's like, yeah, go fucking, you know. But,
so when did you find your voice? Like, how long did it take you to find out which of those styles was like fitting for you?
I'm be honest, I always feel like I found it, and then like I'll just like hit another. Like I used to sit all the time on stage and like had this like once at first when I was younger I was rambunctious and I was just kind of like trying to throw shit at the wall and see what would stick. So I would like just more, and I understand because a lot of comics like do that. Let's be over the top offensive or over the top ridiculous.
That's how I started,
and see what kind of reaction we can get. And I was kind of that way, and then I realized that like I could say these absurd things, but as long as they're structured, and I kind of like intentionally try to be like more smooth and charming and relaxed. So I kind of like sat down in the chair and was trying to just be that that confident guy, you know what I'm saying? And but the reason that I sat in the chair was because I was so nervous when I was standing up sometimes that my leg would shake.
Oh,
like
shit.
visibly be shaking. And then I would try and steady my leg, and then my you know what I'm saying? Or like vice versa. Or like my arms would shake. And then, like it was so I was not in control of my body because I was so intimidated by the whole thing. So I would sit, and it would project this kind of like confidence. So I kind of had this like I'm I kind of like
I know what I'm doing
exactly
here.
Yeah, it's like so you know what I'm saying, like
Just
I was also hammered.
Yeah.
So I was just like, you know what I'm saying? And that worked for a while until I realized that it was all coping. It was all crutch. It was all just me doing what I could so they couldn't see how scared I was up there. And that went on for years. Like, I'm telling you, I didn't think that I was like funny, like for years.
Really?
Like 5, 6 years in, until I actually, like, people would like offer me stage time, and then imposter syndrome. Like, I would walk in every club that I went to, every spot that I went to, you know what I'm saying? And I would have this energy, you know what I'm saying? Because they've seen me around enough, so they just assumed that I was funny and good. But then they'd be like, hey, Bobby, you want to get on this show? And I'd be like, oh, I just realized I gotta go. I gotta walk. I was like, oh, fuck. My whole facade will be up if they, you know what I'm saying? It's either that or I have to pound down as many drinks as possible. Like, go in the mirror, slap myself in the face, you know what I'm saying? Like, like, you're fucking funny, man. You can do this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. And then go there. Yeah, and so I spent so many years. Yeah, there'd be times like, it's like, hey, can you do a set? And I'd be like, yeah, give me, like, when am I going up? It's like, 3, 4 than you. I would just go to 7-Eleven, chug a 4 Loko.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah, and just like, you know, maybe a 4 Loko or 2, you know what I'm saying? And I would just go on there, and I'd just be like, you know your jokes, Bobby? Just try and have fun, try and be in the moment, and it would usually go well.
Yeah.
And that developed the problem of like the fact that I was doing well when I was sloppy.
It turns it into a habit.
So it's like I was getting, you know, known for being funny, and people were like reaching out to me more and giving me more opportunities. So it's like I was actually like weirdly being heralded for being that guy, you know, unintentionally. So it's like there was no reason for me to stop drinking. And I just started doing more. And I'm like, I was using it to unlock, like when I would write, I would get drunk before I would even start writing.
Wow.
So I don't like drinking alone. That's like my thing. But I would like, at the end of every night, I would go out and, you know, McDougal, whatever, I would go home and drink like a measuring glass of wine, or like, you know what I'm saying? Just like because I was poor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was poor. I would be going home. Yeah. And, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I would just like be smoking a bunch of weed. I would just be like eating ramen and bologna sandwiches and just drinking like hobo wine, and just getting plastered and just like watching like sitcoms, because like sitcoms inspired me to be funny. Like, you know what I'm saying, even like the ones, you know, fucking all of them, Seinfeld, New Girl, like any, like, you know, their jokes are so tight, and I find myself laughing at them so often that like I would just use them to spark inspiration. You know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't be stealing the joke. I would just be like, the concept would be so funny.
Yeah, people talk a lot of shit about sitcoms and like how, like, even some of the ones that like as comedians you watch and you're like, I don't know if I like this show. But if you actually just look at it from a writing like exercise, you're like, but this is like joke. That's
all it is.
Like, and that's a crazy thing to ask.
That's all it is, man. You watch like 2.5 Men. It's just punchline, set up punchline, set up punchline.
That's the whole show. That's the whole dialogue. Yeah. So for you, I find this super interesting because you did Dry January. Yeah. And so how did that affect your comedy? Were you just not doing spots?
At this
just point, like, I'm out.
And I'm doing less probably, but I always take a winter slump. I always no, at this point I've kind of figured it out, but it went through years of like, I've been drunk on stage, I've been on acid on stage, I've been on shrooms on stage.
So let's talk about it. I want to get to the shrooms and the acid, but before we get into that, when did you go, like you said you were about 6 years in, and is that when you kind of came out of that sitting on the stool being drunk to where like you were out of it, or like take us through that?
When I started to realize that the material works, like when I started realizing that I can do these jokes the way that I wrote them and the audience will laugh at them the way, like while doing them. Like, I used to kind of go up there and wing it with these jokes. I'd have these concepts, but like my voice and my performance never really clicked for those first couple of years because I was just like just trying. Like, I would never do it verbatim.
So you had like a premise, but you didn't have an actual joke.
I wasn't I could write the joke the way that I wanted it to sound, but I would get up on stage and like if I tried to do it too close to the way that it was written, it would fall flat.
Yeah.
So I spent so much time just trying to figure out what the best way to say things were that I went through a 1,000 different variations of how I sound up there before I just was like, you know what I'm saying? It starts to be normalized. You start to mesh. It starts to become like one person.
Yeah, the trusting the material thing is, and this is what I say to comics all the time, and you know this, but like I go to a lot of mics because Jared Waters, friend of ours, told me when I first moved here, he came on the podcast and we were talking about his start in New York and everything, and I remember he said something that was very inspirational where he was like, dude, I was doing mics until I was getting booked so much I no longer had time to do mics. Yeah. Like that's what like I was doing. Like that was his work ethic. And to me, I was like, oh shit, like I got to do that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of in the middle. I'm kind of like, I'm not a no mic guy, but I'm not like an everyday 4 or 5 times a day kind of guy. I'm kind of in between, but I will go to mics sometimes. And like if I have a show coming up, sometimes I'm like, oh, let me run my tight 5 just to make sure I've got all my ducks in a row. I haven't done it in a little while. Let me just make sure I've got it. And sometimes because the people at the mics have heard me so many times, like they have heard me develop these jokes. They were there when I first said it like as a throwaway thing on stage and now it's a joke. So they don't laugh. And then I'm like, oh fuck, this isn't funny. So to your point about trusting the material, that can be hard, especially if you're just around comics all the time, because I start to get that imposter syndrome where I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not funny. And then you do it in a room full of people, strangers who have never heard you before, and they die, and you go, oh yeah, this is fucking funny. Well, my friends are assholes.
If you do enough open mics but you like sprinkle in that you're making sure you're getting actual stage time, you'll know that a real audience should be easier to make laugh than, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because that's what I do now is I do mics, but I also do shows. Yeah. So like I'll try something at a mic that's brand new, and if it gets a little laughs and I try to show, then it like hits. Yeah. I'm like, oh, this is a real joke.
If the room like chuckles at like of an open mic, like you get any response to it, that means that they acknowledge that this is actually like how it's supposed to be done. That's comics going like, oh, you did your job. They're not laughing because they're harder to impress or harder to shock because they know, you know what I'm saying?
They can
like
see it coming.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's almost an acknowledgement of like, oh, that's a good joke.
As like a gymnast, like you watch someone do a triple backflip and I'm just like, holy shit, I could never do that in a million years. That's fucking sick. But their coach will be like, or like, their teammates will be like, oh, that the dismount was sloppy or this, that, and the other. And it's just like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, it's like if you actually fine tooth comb anything, there's always flaws, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, it's just easier for open micers to see that. So I always say don't go off that. You just want to be used to saying, there's so many jokes that I have like in my voice notes and stuff like that are just hilarious concepts, but until I've said them on stage, I'll never feel confident just throwing them in on like if I have a big show or something coming up and I have some jokes that I feel so confident that would be good, I'm not going to whip out something that's never touched the stage. So sometimes it's just saying the joke in front of people so you know how it would feel to do it on a real stage as opposed to just having it in your notes or on your thing is what you need. So
yeah, and also it can mess you up because you're there. Like because I'm a storyteller, like that's my style. And I'm always there for the story. So a lot of times in my head, it seems really funny what happened, but I forget it's because I'm I'm there. Yeah. So that's another good thing with the mics is to be able to say it out loud and then nobody laughs. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's because so this isn't funny because you guys have no point of reference.
The
because
mental
you
image
weren't
in your
there.
head is just like
because it throws me off sometimes because I was like, oh no, but this is hilarious, and it's like, oh yeah, but none of you were there, so you don't get it.
Wait, no, guys, this is funny.
I had somebody back home once tell me if you ever have to say it was funny, if you were there, you would get it. Yeah. If you ever have to think that or say that, don't ever say it on stage because they're not there. And I was like, oh, that's actually really good advice.
I wish I had more funny retorts. Like a funny retort after a joke bombs actually can sometimes be funnier than the
Oh,
joke.
yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
I've seen some people like completely just eat shit and then just say like the right thing, like, oh, I guess this room isn't like, or something,
Yeah.
like something just so clever and witty and just like kind of just throw it out there that it just like brings the mood right back up. Me, I'm always like, get next
Yeah,
joke,
next
joke,
one.
next joke.
I
next
had
joke.
that. You're talking about the new material thing. I made that mistake. I won't say the club, but I was getting up for like 4 or 5 consecutive weeks. I was doing a late Monday spot at a particular club. And I have been doing comedy as long as I have and moving to New York and actually like getting some stuff. Like I'm nobody, but like I got like some stuff enough to where I felt good about myself. And it was just that perfect mixture of like, I had a couple things happen. So I'm on a high. This club isn't like a big club in the city. So I was like, man, I'm doing them a favor by coming. So like the first time I did it, I did like a true set list, went really well. The second time I sprinkled in a couple of new jokes, went pretty good. The third time I was like, man, I'm always going to be on this show. Yeah. Like they've had me 3 weeks in a row. I'm like a mainstay on this show now. Did all brand new stuff. I hadn't even done it at an open mic and I bombed so bad.
Yeah.
And then never got asked back. Yeah. But it's to your point. It's like, you can't just go up and be like, I got it.
You can't wing it unless you're absolutely hammered.
Yeah.
In which case, there's a slight chance that. No, I'm just kidding. It usually makes you worse. If the more refined you are, I've learned that the more it doesn't help.
Yeah.
It was actually when I didn't have my shit together that it made that feel less noticeable. But now, if I go up there, if I'm gonna go up drunk, like too drunk, like my timing is off. You know what I'm saying? I'm forgetting a lot of the bit, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll look back at my tape and like, not only does it sound like it's not hitting as well, but I'm also forgetting chunks. Like,
and it's not as like concise.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you're always a split second behind.
But I think it's one of those things where it was like strength testing, where I was like, let me see how fucked up I could get up there on that, you know. And it's like any opportunity I could get to be in front of people, I would just do it. But I like, you know, so I would do karaoke, you know what I'm saying? I would do like, you know what I'm saying? But like, just like on all types of, I you know what I'm saying, so much of a
showman.
No. I needed substances to do
I
it.
see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But once I got numb to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't get on stage, everyone look at me guy. I never let the world know that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like I would walk around and just be like, I'm here. And I always was like, let me just try and be as big as I can in real life. So that way people assume that it's that way on stage. And I would just try my hardest to not let it show. So anything that I could do to keep that energy up when I would get on stage, I would just do it. Like if I was feeling, you know.
Yeah, that to what you were talking about earlier in that point, that bit me in the ass when I was drinking, because I did 2 open mics and I changed all my handles to Brennan T Comedy. I told people I was a comic. It's in a police report. I talked about that on the last episode. When I got my DUI, they asked me what my occupation was, and I was like, I'm a comedian.
That's funny.
But it's exactly what you're saying. Like, I wasn't getting up. Like, I was doing a mic maybe once a month. Yeah. But I had this personality because I was drunk all the time of, like, this loud, boisterous guy. So everyone just assumed, like, oh, yeah, he's a comic. Yeah. And it bit me in the ass a couple of times. Like, I remember one restaurant I was working at, they were like, oh, you do... They were doing, like, a comedy night in the back. And it was for Dusty Slay, who's huge now. Yeah. But this is back when he was doing, like, smaller rooms. And they're like, oh, you do comedy. Dusty he has a feature, but he doesn't have like an opener. Brennan, I'm on the clock in my tie, in my work uniform. They're like, you do 5 minutes before, because I talked all this shit about how I'm a comedian and I'm always drunk and having a good time. Yeah. And dude, it was a disaster. Yeah. I was at work, so I wasn't able to be like, oh, I gotta go. Something came up. And I just ate a dick.
I've always tried to play it mysterious. Anytime that like people would ask me, like, oh, when can I come and see a show? It's like I said, I never felt ready. Yeah. And to the point where like I still have family members and close friends that have never seen me because I spent so many years just like deflecting.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? So I really always wanted the illusion that I was good. Because that way, you know what I'm saying? Like when time came and it met, like I believe now, give me an opportunity and I'll be that person that I always knew I could be. Yeah. But I just didn't, you know what I'm saying? I loved being known as a comedian, but I didn't feel ready. So it was full imposter syndrome, but I was doing the work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I didn't feel like it was that like like I was ready for like if someone saw a random raw set that they would you know it would hold the same image that I've been projecting. So I wasn't like it's like half faking it till you make it, but half like kind of just like believing that I knew that I could be good and wanting to be encouraged along the way and not have to hide it. I didn't want to lie to people and say I wasn't doing comedy, but at the same time I didn't want to go around being like I suck, I'm ass. So I was like, I'm fucking, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm fucking good. I'm cool.
I'm out there.
Yeah, I'm doing my thing, you know, and then you know what I'm saying? And usually with enough heads up and like I wouldn't get too sloppy. I would like crank out the best of my stuff, but I spent so much time trying to be experimental, trying to figure out my voice that like I kind of didn't want to be seen because I just wanted to keep throwing shit at the wall until I knew what my sound actually was. So there would be like whole month-long periods where I would be doing like some really fucking twisted, not great shit just for the sake of seeing like how do I make this something that I can use.
That's actually really like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who are just like, oh, this is, and we started similarly into what you're talking about with like I tried to be overtly offensive because I think a lot of young men when they start comedy, it's like, let's see what we can get out of this. Let's get our reaction. And I look back because I have some, they're in that bookshelf over there, but I have some joke books from like 2009, like when I first started. And I'm like, I should burn this. This is terrible.
I was in Alabama for 3.5 years, and I at that time when I first got there, I had like 10 minutes of stuff that like I had, you know what I'm saying, because it was probably about my 6th or 7th year into comedy that I moved there, and then I stayed there for 3 years. So I had all these joke books with like that kind of thing too, and I'm like, new place, new me, and I took 10 stacks of joke books and I threw them in the trash.
Oh shit!
I didn't think twice. I regret it to this day, but at the time I was just like, I need to figure out who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not like that, like I was too dependent on who I was, recycling the same shit over and over and over again because I knew it was work. I was in my comfort zone, so I wanted to get completely out of my comfort zone. And in that process, I definitely cranked out another, you know what I'm saying, like a whole different variation of stuff that I can also use. And I have that old stuff, but if I could go back in time now, I wouldn't have.
Well, and that's the point. Because I definitely want to compliment you. It's hard to get out of that routine because a lot of times people find something that works and they go, okay, this is my lane. Because it worked once, I'm going to stay here in this lane. And Segura on his podcast a few months ago talked about it, and it was a really solid piece of advice. He goes, there's so many people that when they write a joke, it's at like a 5 or a 6. So like 1 to 10, it's at like a 5 or a 6. And they go, okay, well, that's good enough. So I'll keep it there. And same thing with our careers. Like we could be like, for me, I'm probably at like a 5 or a 6. But the whole point is to be like, how do I get up to an 8 or a 9?
Yeah.
Like, what do I have? And so many people get locked into their comfort zone. And I'm guilty of it, where I have this tight 5. And sometimes when someone's like, hey, you want to jump up? I just immediately revert to that. Yeah. Like, and I don't sway from it. I'm like, this, ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump. Because I get scared. And I'm like, oh, what if I try something and it doesn't work?
I see that with a lot of other comedians where, like, people get burnt out on comedy. And when that happens to me, I have other outlets. Like I was a music guy, so I'll like make music. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I'll go and I have a book of poetry. I'll write some more poems, like something like I'll stop doing comedy in my mind. And like if I get a show or whatever, I have 5. I've been doing it for so long. I can go and do 10 minutes in my sleep. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like give me 48 hours notice. Boom, I'm fresh as, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know. So I'll just completely stop doing comedy when I feel that burnt, where I feel like I'm like dragged down or whatever like that. I'll just start recording music right there and then when I put out something that I like musically or like I finish a project, I feel so energized by that I feel like I have nothing left to prove. So getting back into comedy feels like something that I'm lucky, like it feels fun again. It feels like like I'm immediately like I'm already succeeding at something in my life, even if no one ever hears the music. Just knowing that I put out something that I like because there's no real reward in comedy if for like kind of doing what you're used to doing. Nobody, like, once you hit a certain level, once you hit those plateaus, it does plateau. So you do something big, and then if you don't do something big again, you stop feeling like you're doing the right thing, which isn't the case. You gotta, you know what I'm saying, keep doing it, stage time, but like when I put out a song, I have a small group of people that are always like, yo, that shit was fire. Like, as soon as I put something on
That's
YouTube
gonna
or
be
SoundCloud,
awesome.
you know what I'm
like,
saying?
Let's go.
But like, I could do 10 sets and like, you get that, like, oh, good set, this, that, and the other, but it all starts to feel like Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Because you want to advance in your career. Like, you know that you're, after a certain point, you know that you're funny. Like, it never gets old hearing those things, but what does, you know what I'm saying?
But it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything if like if the industry isn't like kind of nudging you along also. So it's like, yeah, it's like, thanks, you know what I'm saying? But then I have to go home alone and fucking, you know
that's
what I'm
why,
saying?
That's
like,
actually why I put all this stuff on the wall, because it's all stuff that I had done, because it's so easy to like get into that headspace of like, I haven't done shit.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a manager. I don't have an agent. I'm not like passed at all these major clubs. So I'm like, man, I fucking suck. And then that's because it was a lot of, I needed more internal validation. So I like got all the cover art printed out and stuff, and I put it on the wall. So that way, whenever I'm feeling like that, I look up and I go, oh no, I have done some cool things. Like I am doing more than I was. It's important.
It is, yeah. I feel like you can get burnt up because you're just sitting around waiting for bigger opportunities or you know what I'm saying, and trying. You don't want to be one of those people that's like too much of a social ladder climber where you're just like all you're doing is trying to, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing what you need to do to get ahead, but if you make that your whole identity,
then you're not doing the work. You're not doing the thing that you need to do.
So,
I want to ask you, because you brought it up, the mushroom and the acid on stage. How does that even happen? Were you like, I'm gonna try this and go on stage,
man,
or was this
if my mom ever watches it, whatever, like
you brought it up. I mean,
I don't care. I don't care. You know what
it.
I'm saying? I got it. I support psychedelics, man. I do. I support, you know what I'm saying? Anything that you can fucking, don't ruin your life, but like, if you know what you're doing. I
never got into it because everyone would always say, just be in a good headspace. And I was like, well, I don't even know what that is.
So me, I had land, man. I had a big backyard in Alabama. And I just started doing this shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? I had some bad experiences with psychedelics when I was younger, which, like, I don't think I need to get into. But, like...
it was bad.
Yeah, it was bad. So I revisited it, like, in my early 30s. I would, like... My friend was like, I got shrooms, you know what I'm saying? Like, my bud dealer or whatever. He's like, I got shrooms, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, fuck it. Let me just buy these chocolates and save them for a rainy day. Or, you know, not an actual rainy day. It was a beautiful day. But I put a towel down in my backyard. I had like a Gatorade, a gallon of water, and my headphones, and I just sat there and I listened to like a Taylor Swift album.
There you go. Get some.
And I just sat there, and on a beautiful day, on a little fucking towel blanket in my I'm like, I can't. Nothing to harm myself with, nothing to harm others with, because I didn't know where I was gonna go.
Yeah.
You hear all these like terrible stories.
Yeah.
So it was a light trip to, I think I did like a third of a candy bar, like a half a candy bar, and I just sat there and I was like, and I let it wash over me, and I did like a few experiments like that before I was like, I could handle this, and then I would start going out. It's like, then I started wanting to get like, maybe a little bit. I'm gonna do some shrooms, and then I'll see how I feel. I'll meet you guys later. And I was like,
out there.
exactly. And then I was like, all right. And then after I got shrooms down, I was like, all right, let's step it up, because then I was like, let's try a tab, acid. And same thing. I would just sit and, you know what I'm saying, kind of like let it. But honestly, it's like, if you can handle shrooms, you can handle acid.
Well, that's a smart way to do it, because as someone who's obviously in recovery now, but before that, I would just take shit. Obviously, I like I said, I never did psychedelics because I was too scared of them. And I'm from Florida, so we'd hear those stories about like the bath salts and people eating each other's faces. And I was like, I'm good, man. But when it came to like pills or like things that you would smoke or snit, like people would just hand me stuff, and I'd be like, cool. You doing it that way is so much more And I don't want to, we're doing shrooms, so I don't want to make it sound like, we're reinventing the wheel. But like, that's so much smarter to be like, let me see how this affects me. Because I've had so many people on this podcast. I don't know if it's a New York thing or a Northeast thing, but I've had a lot of people on this show who are like, oh, I don't drink really, but I love shrooms or I love acid. But they all have a story of like, one time it was fucking horrific.
Oh, yeah. I've never other than my first, because I didn't know what I was getting into.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Is
I was
like
around a bunch of people.
You got older,
you know
and then you were like, let's just chill.
Yeah.
And that's but you said you took it before you got on stage before?
Well, after I got like this
Used
is
to it?
months after
Yeah.
like kind of microdosing and doing big dose, like it completely like a month or two of experimenting on my own with these things in my backyard because I had nothing else to do, and eventually I was just like I could handle myself to the point where like I would use them like party drugs, like people would use Molly or you know what I'm saying. So it's like I would meet up with a friend that also does it, and it's like I'm saying like music. I hung out with a lot of musicians, and they were they've been doing this for the last decade or two, so they're just like they're like coaching you through it, but they're saying all the right things. So it's like I had really good like what I'm saying, like I'm not advertising or advising anyone to do any of the things that I'm doing, like what I'm saying, and it was
heard it here.
But psychedelics, and before that I had like crazy terrible stories with like pills and stuff like that. So it's like this was a whole different thing. It's not like I'm substituting one for the other, but like that was an addiction, that was a problem that I had. I went I'm saying that was my early 20s, right after I started doing comedy. I was doing I'm saying
was that from comedy or was that something completely separate?
I think I wanted to be able to expand my mind.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about drugs. I actually was like, I drank a lot as a kid, but I didn't even smoke weed until I was 23.
When did you first start drinking? When you were like
17,
teenager?
Probably.
Yeah.
But I didn't even smoke weed until I was 23.
Yeah.
So when I started smoking weed, less than a year later, I was just in the pills. I was taking perks, Xannies,
and this was all in hopes to like expand
my mind, just kind of like get out. Like I was just like whatever I am. I would sit there, and then I would watch someone like a Young Chappelle or Louis C.K. or Richard Pryor or like what I'm saying, one of these goats doing it, Chris Rock, and I'd be like, I'm not that.
Yeah.
So if I just do a bunch of drugs and watch that, I would just sit like still to this day, I'll do shrooms and just like absorb Nate Bargatze or like, what I'm saying? Or like I'll just be watching Sam Morril, just like, completely, like just because like I'm just like I want to be like these. I want a part of their essence. I'm just like,
Dude, I say it all the time. I go to the cellar. I normally go on Wednesdays and I just have dinner there. And I know I've talked to other comics about it, like at the Olive Tree, and they'd be like, why do you go? Like, I'm not going to go there until I'm past. And like, I hear all this shit and they go, why do you want to just go there to eat dinner? And I go, because I just want to be around it, man.
Just
like,
get a whiff of it.
Yeah.
So
just be
breathe it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know some of those people from the restaurant, like some of them are regulars at my restaurant. Some of them I've had them on this podcast. Yeah. And then, later on in life, they get passed to the cellar, but we're all friends. So it's like, it's just cool to be sitting there and have like someone who is now passed at the cellar, who I've always thought was like super funny. That's why I have people on the show that I think are funny. Yeah. And then for them to come up and be like, yo, man, what's up? And just that experience of like, if I told 12-year-old Brennan, who was watching Comedy Central Presents, recording it on VHS, if I said, one day you're going to be at the Olive Tree talking to cellar comics like you're a friend, I would lose my fucking mind. Yeah. So it's that same kind of thing where it's like, I just want to absorb it.
It's like an out-of-body experience. Like I see so many people on a regular basis that like I idolize that I have to like I've learned to control it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But like I sit there and I've done nothing but like study these people religiously. Like religiously.
Oh yes, I know.
Yeah.
When you joke quote them and it's a bit that they did on the special like 3 specials ago and they've forgotten it. Yeah. I've embarrassed myself being like, you know what I mean? And then I'll like joke quote them and then they're like,
oh no!
What?
The thing is I can't be myself around people in the industry because I'm such a fan that I'm just like I just have to be the cool black dude that's like, hey, what's up,
true.
brother?
Hey,
you're killing it, man. Yeah, keep it up. Like I'm like, please don't talk anymore to me because my fangirl will start to leak out, and you don't want to, like, you know what I'm saying?
See, I had someone back home, my buddy Chris Buck. Shout out Chris Buck. At one point, he was like, I remember he told me one time, he goes, you're like a because like you do stand up, like you're a comic, you do comedy. He's like, but you're like a professional fan. Yeah. Like I've been on set, I've done shows, I've done well at shows, I've crushed at shows, I've bombed at shows, I've done the whole spectrum of comedy. But still, when I meet someone that I'm a fan of, I can't help but do that like, what's up, man?
Yeah, I try my hardest. Like I'm not putting on like a fake exterior. I'm just being my most normal self.
Just try your hardest not to talk.
Almost like it's like mixing. Like it's like half job interview, half like you want to be cool. Like you just met like your sister's boyfriend, and you want to like kind of like be
what's
like,
up?
Hey, you know. So,
what's up?
Yeah, it's like
you good? You good?
You chilling?
Right,
yeah. Good to see you, bro. Keep
doing you.
Yeah, stay blessed. Stay blessed. Like I'm trying my hardest, like not to like
Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Don't freak out.
But I love it, man. I'll just like sit around and just do nothing, just like fucking, just melting, like just like hypnotizing myself. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I wanted to ask because you had mentioned you started drinking around like 17. When you were in high school, were you going to like parties and stuff? Like, were you like a big Bobby's here?
Yeah. Too much, most
Really?
likely.
Well, because I asked, because as someone, I was bullied in high school. I didn't have a whole lot of friends, even though I played football and stuff. I got bullied by the team. Yeah. And my sisters and my older brother were all popular kids, and whatever that means. So they would always go to parties. And I remember thinking like, man, that would be so cool to like go. And then when I got to college, I was like, I'm going to turn this around. And I did. And I became a popular kid in college. But for you in high school, were you like that guy that like everyone would call you to be like, yo, we're doing a thing?
I peaked too early.
Yeah?
Yeah, I flew too close to the sun. I was, you know what the thing is I was always like a chubby kid, and I was always a nerdy kid, and those two things together, just like, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I know exactly what. I don't know if you saw the Star Wars around here, but I know exactly what you're saying.
Sit home playing Xbox and something. And 1 year, I just decided like, fuck it, I'm gonna like turn my whole life around. I lost like 107 pounds,
dude.
So I went from like, you know what I'm saying, that kid that's like, I'm gonna, you know, like, oh, you guys want to hang out tonight? It's like, you know, they're like talking to me. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go home and play Gears of War and jerk off. You know what I'm saying? And like eat a fucking, you know,
eat a whole pizza by myself.
Eat like $5 burgers from Wendy's by myself and just like sit in the dark and, you know. And then like one day I just fucking woke up and I was like, I'm gonna fucking do this, and I just lost a bunch of weight, and I like, you know what I'm saying, and I was just like,
that was in high school.
Yeah, I want to, okay, and I was like, I want to go and I want to be in the world. I've spent so much time like, don't look at me.
You rose as a phoenix.
And then I was just like, I want to be every single place that I possibly could. You know what I'm saying? And
damn, man, that's a cool story.
Yeah. Until you, like, and then I just like, I was like, I got there, and then no.
Yeah, that's all the end of it.
But you know, I like
the story's still being written.
It's just too much. I got like, I got my GED. I never fucking finished.
Oh, you didn't even.
I just stopped going to school.
Oh, really?
I'm not blaming alcohol. That would be absurd to do. I just stopped caring about school. I just stopped going. It wasn't like it was an attendance thing, but also just like mentally, I couldn't be convinced to do homework, to do projects. You know what I'm saying? Like I would actually do well on tests and stuff like that. It wasn't like I was like, for my first like 5th, 6th, 7th grade, I was fine. And then I hit like 8th, 9th grade. And I think I got left back in 9th grade. And once I got left back that first time, I'm like, I don't care anymore. I don't care at all. So I just would stop. I would go to the mall and say, you know what I'm saying? I would I would just be like, hey, you guys want to go to this, you know, this person's parents aren't home. They want to have, you guys want to go over his place and play beer pong and play Super Smash Bros. And go swimming all day. You know what I'm saying?
You were probably wrecking those like regular kids on the Smash Bros.
Oh, I was a nerd.
Yeah.
I was a nerd.
That's what I'm saying. Like you come out of this shell, but you still have all these skills.
I was the guy that if you wanted to do something stupid that wasn't, you know, like productive in the sense of like a high school kid trying to go to college. You know? Like I was, you know,
you were the guy. You were the plug.
But I was also running 3 to 5 miles a day. You know what I'm saying? I was also like, you know, very supportive of people doing the right thing. Yeah. I just personally was like, if you don't want to do that, that's what I'm going to be doing. Like, after I would wake up, I would run my 3 miles, or I would run it after school with people. Like, I actually, you know what I'm saying? Like, I stayed in shape until my early 20s, and then comedy and the drugs is when like I just couldn't hold on to the exercising thing. My body just wasn't healing from the hangovers fast enough. I was like too fucking zonked out, so it's like eventually it caught up to me. But I was a functioning, raging alcoholic from
That's
a young
crazy.
Yeah.
What we got a little bit of time left. I want the listeners, I want you to tell them about the tattoos, because we were talking about this the other night when we were murking some people on Marvel Rivals. What do you got? What are you up to now? 76? 72?
76.
Yeah, 76. I remember.
Good call.
See, when you talk, I listen.
Good call.
Bobby.
Yeah. I got, you know, the thing is like you always, I envisioned myself having tattoos when I was younger. I always wanted like tattoos and a big beard, and like I also wanted giant biceps but baby steps, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I just saw this big like tank of a human being in my mind. Like my dad was a big bulky dude.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have I don't think he had any tattoos, but he was just like, he was very focused on his physique, like being muscular.
Yeah.
So I always like idolized him for that. So I wanted to be big like him, but I also wanted to be cool and badass.
Yeah.
And I knew bald was coming. So I was like, tattoos, beard.
Shave the head, get the beard.
Everyone in my family, my uncles, my dad, my brothers all went bald super young. I think I made it to like 27 or 28 until I went bald. But most of the people in my family go bald in like their mid-20s.
Damn.
Like, yeah. So I was just like, let me just like, so.
Because if I didn't know you as well as I know you, you are intimidating. You're a big dude. You're tall. You're wide. You got all the tattoos. You got the beard. Like, if you just walked up to me on the street and you were like, yo, I'd be like, whoa, what's up, man? Everything cool?
I think
So you did get that aesthetic.
I'm not trying to be intimidating.
You got the skin you wanted, man. You got the character skin you wanted.
It's not intimidating that I'm going for. It's just like, I want to be confident. And I spent so much time, like, I was, like I said, super big when I was like in middle school, whatever. So what happened, and this is like so TMI, but I got like stretch marks at a crazy young age.
I got them too.
At like 13, 14 years old, my whole body was covered in stretch marks, and I was so like ruined by it, like mentally. Like I couldn't take my shirt off at parties. I like, you know what I'm saying? Like whatever.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying.
Getting older, I was just like, if I just cover all that with tattoos, no one's going to look at me and see that guy that's just like all fucking fucked up. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be like, so it was like that. Like, it's like, it goes deeper than that, but like, I spent so much time hating my body, and now like tattoos help. Like every single tattoo I get, I'm just like, when I look in the mirror, I go like, this is the person that I want to see. It's not like I'm looking like, it's not like I wasn't disgusted or repulsed. It was just like, I felt like kind of like defeated by myself, because it was my own fault.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it was kind of just like reclaiming my
taking
confidence.
the power back.
Exactly.
Now because you got some good ones. You got the Vote for Pedro.
Oh,
you got the Mortal Kombat one, which is one of my favorites.
I don't know if the
that's the big one.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on this side. Yeah. And then the Batman, the diamonds. You got a ton.
Yeah.
You got this surf, the Bass Pro Shop. Oh my god, dude.
That's not even the leg. The legs.
I know you got it, because we were talking about it the other day. Because you were like, I want to be like covered.
Yeah.
And you were like, do you know the amount of time and how painful? And I was like, well, I've got a couple, but I have no idea what you're going through.
You know what the thing is? You do like sometimes I'll take a break and I'll forget how painful it is until I'm right there in the moment. And like I had like, even like the whole thing of it, the healing process, it gets itchy, and then like sometimes I have this like shit that sticks on you. You have to peel it off. And I think it was yesterday I was peeling one off of a new tattoo I have on my leg, and I just forgot how much it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like how much like
you're like, boy oh boy, then you get in the chair and hear the and you're like, god damn it.
It's just like the second it touches, like, and I like, you
Why
never
am I
know
doing this again?
And like I met so I have like Tasmanian devil. It's like pretty big right here. And going through that, it was, the lines were thick, so we had to go over everyone like 3 or 4 times. By the end of that tattoo, it just felt like he was carving into me with a knife. Like it didn't even feel like I was getting a tattoo anymore. I was completely disassociating. I was just like, because I'm not gonna quit. I've heard people quit halfway through and stuff. Like I've seen some tattoos where people were like, yeah, I was gonna get the whole thing filled and I couldn't do it, so it just looks like that. And I'm like, you never went back? It's like, no. And that was like me. I was gonna get both knees done, and I had already had him put the stencil on both knees at once. So I got this knee done, and I was going to get a spider web on this one. And after getting this knee done, I'm like, thank you, good sir. I'm like, thank you very much, good sir. You've done a great service.
Great day.
Yeah.
Dude, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on, my guy.
I appreciate you, brother.
Of course, man. Plug everything one more time.
Burrito Lockwood. I make music. Big Dank on the stuff. SoundCloud.
I gotta get you. I use music for a lot of stuff. I'm gonna have you send me some. I'll pay you for some beats, dog.
We can talk about anything, you know.
All right.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're
buy
down,
my book, I guess. I got.
You got a book?
I had a book. Some old, some new, a recapitulation of modern poetry.
This will all be in the show notes. I'm going to make sure Bobby sends me all this stuff. So the links are in the show notes.
The links in my Instagram bio.
Yeah, well, I'm going to link everything to this page too when the episode airs. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. At Brendan T. Comedy on all social media, BrendanTComedy.com. Dates in California, Connecticut, Boston, Florida, all coming up this spring. So check out the website to get the tickets. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.